Hello all, I need to share this out, so let me get it sharing. Still sharing around, give me a second guys. Hello, hi everybody. This is our 6th live stream, and I have a lot to go over today. Wait for a few more people to funnel in. If you have any questions about any previous videos, go ahead and send them to me. I'm also feeling under the weather. My son was sick, it spread to my other son, and now I have it, which I usually don't get sick because I do take garlic and vitamin C every day, but this one's a pretty rough one going around. So I apologize about heavy breathing, everything. Anyways, so couple things I want to go over. First, I want to talk about Alex Bobulinski. He's a friend of mine. Many of you may already know him with a Spectral Wolfpack Paranormal on YouTube, Bigfoot Bob on YouTube, and Spectral Wolfpack Show on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Central. And the reason I'm giving him a shout out is he's done a whole lot to motivate me, to help me get going with doing my group again. And his topics are more in line with my hobbies rather than what goes in line with my channel. So I've been trying to find a good spot to shout Alex out in, and just haven't been able to. And that goes with Eric too from Epic Paranormal TV on YouTube, and he does live streams as well. And I want to shout them both out tonight. They're at Crypticon. I forget where that particular one is at, but they are at Crypticon, and tonight they're supposed to live stream. Now I'm not sure if that's going to be on both Spectric Wolf Pack Paranormal on YouTube, and then Epic Paranormal TV as well, or just one or the other. Hi everybody. Hi Arjan. Arjan, by the way, is also a guy that works in the realm of what I do. He does Mudfossil petrified flesh research, and he has Age of Disclosure on YouTube. But yeah, so Eric and Alex, or just Eric, or just Alex, will be going live tonight. So hope to catch you guys there. If I'm awake and I'm feeling good, I'll be tuned into their streams. Um, so I didn't do a live last week. So going back to um, the video that I downloaded last week, that was video 10 in our series, and it had to do with the hypothesis by Zechariah Sitchin that Tiamat, the planet in the asteroid belt, was hit by Marduk and only formed Earth. His presentation pretty much leads to a solid Earth, although I believe one of the people I contacted, might even be City, I'm not sure, had told me she had read some information somewhere before that he had also presented a hollow planet somewhere within one of his hypotheses, but I hadn't found that yet. But pretty much that video covered a lot of findings that suggest that the Titans of Tiamat were helmet wearing, dragon riding species. They obviously took good care of their kids, because the thumbnail in that I did show where there's a female embracing her man, and she has her child on her head, and he's got a little mangled hand right here, and his head is facing upwards. And they lived on a supersized world, and these beings were so tall they had a mile or two stride in between. Talk about trying to keep up if you're a kid. So some of the people I talked about in that video were Roger Spur, who grandfathered the Mudfossil research, and he's found Titans beyond that. And I wanted to talk about one mistake I said in there. When I got to Titans close to the equator, they're 1 to 2 miles tall. But at the equator on land, we're finding at least one person found what looks to be like a Titan Bigfoot, believe it or not, that may be in the 40 to 50 mile tall range. And Roger has found land based water dragons. One's hunting a fish and spraying some kind of almost like a chemical out at the fish. And that one's about 500, 600 miles long in Canada. Another one, I believe, in Africa. And these would be beings that would be within the planet in a low gravity with deep water as well that could support these massive beings. Um, there's also footprints in granite and things like that. So my next two videos we're talking about the Sumerian tablets and Nibiru, aka wormwood. And in that video, I forgot to mention that the reason I believe it is wormwood is because of its cratered surface, which I did correct in the next video, which is about the flood. But going over the history up until the point where they got to Earth. And I'm going to step back from that a little bit because I have a ton of different places to research. Although I had covered the Sumerian tablets up to that point, and I know a general idea of what comes after that, I want to delve into that and anything I can find on Lemuria, Atlantis, and everything before I proceed forward with I'm pretty sure it was this way, because the Sumerian tablets allude to that they found an ape that they could control, but would also try to break its ape brothers and sisters out of traps. And I have to read into that more to verify that. I've just been told that. And so they set about using some DNA to make a human. And they originally put the fetuses, the embryos, into those apes to carry. And when they came out wild and with a lot of fur. So then they picked some Anunnaki volunteer hero astronauts from Nibiru to carry these. And they came out a lot more human-like, but they were still pretty much brutes. So much that they wiped out that entire one and started over again, using a little bit more of their DNA mix and got a better result. So good that they were attracted to them and ended up having children with them. And that's where we get the firstborn, Adapa. And Adapa was actually flown to Nibiru and showed off. And they got approval to continue to make those. And those humans were so smart, they began to rebel. And they talk about letting them drown in the upcoming flood and deluge that they suggest they had awareness of. Well, I have a little bit of problem about the whole awareness of, because they're finding right now in Antarctica an ancient frozen civilization that I got into in the flood hypothesis that I had, where they were flash frozen in time. Not only Anunnaki, but the human slaves and an advanced technology pyramid, ancient Sumerian Egyptian civilization in Antarctica. So if they knew this was coming, why would they also let that entire civilization drown in this event? You would think they would at least save themselves if they weren't saving humans. And I have some other hypotheses on some of that. What may have been involved in that situation, why the Anunnaki pretty much disappeared off the face of the earth after the flood, and only humans pretty much for the most part were brought back on the surface. And so we'll be getting into that more later, but I'll probably sidetrack while I'm doing that heavy research into all that, trying to figure out that gap and talk more about Hollow Earth again, how the weather works. I also had in 2015 on or about then, around June 7th, about first week of June, either in 2013 through 2015. I don't think it was any earlier than that. I went outside and I thought I saw an orange ball in a tree right outside my house to the west here. The tree's no longer there. It's been cut down since then. But it wasn't. I walked all the way past the tree and there was an orange ball in the sky. And when I say ball, it was about dime size in the sky. and it was completely illuminated by itself. And when I got to the end of the garage there, which sticks out further than my front door, and I looked left, there was a moon in the sky, a crescent moon, our moon, but it was a crescent, and it was about quarter to half dollar size compared to this other object. So at the time, I thought, secondary sun, Mercury. It looked like Mars to me, but Mars couldn't be on this side of the planet at that time. Doesn't work that way. It's on in an orbit to where it just can't be in front of the planet where it was directly. And even if it was, it couldn't be that big. So I thought, well, maybe we were either seeing a reflection of the sun or possibly with the atmospheric river that's at the top of the atmosphere, somehow maybe seeing some kind of almost like a magnifying glass effect and somehow seeing Mercury a lot more close up than we were. And so I'm going to draw what I saw and some of the other ideas I had about that and probably work on that in the next couple videos and getting more in depth with our lunar orbit and its effect on our weather over the 2 week and full month period. The gravity bringing us closer to the sun, away from the sun, and how that changes our weather slightly, 1 or 2 degrees, trends either way. So when the sun's on the solar, or when the moon is on the solar side of the planet during the daytime, we get a little bit more warm weather trends as we're closer to the sun, moving a little bit this way. And then every 2 weeks after, in the 27-day orbit of the moon around, we're on the other side and we get a cooling trend for a couple weeks. So the more you start to see these things and understand it, you'll understand that. Talk about also things like weather in there. But again, Alex has been instrumental to helping me out, giving me encouragement to go with this. And so I just want to shout him out again. He has a really great podcast on Wednesdays. It's called Spectral Wolfpack Show or Spectral Wolfpack Paranormal Show. It's on Spreaker app. That's speaker with an R. And it's every Wednesday. All the back shows are free at this point still. I have 2 interviews in there in like the 4th and 5th show, I believe, or the 3rd and 4th. So those are still in there. The one we recorded, we did pre, and it's got a clear, crisp recording. The other one, however, it was semi-tampered with, and that was a bummer because there was some key moments when I talked about, forgiveness and forgiving anybody for not giving us this knowledge and moving humanity forward. There was a lot, and some other key points was muffled or blurred audio. In listening to all his shows since then, I have yet to hear any show that had those kind of disturbances or just distractions in it. So, but still, it is there. And that brings up another thing. If you're struggling with any of this information, and it is registering with you, but you're in a lot of disbelief, feeling really frustrated about it, it's really clicked in for you, but you can't tell your family members because they're just not going to listen, you can shoot me a message anytime. I'll be happy to discuss all that with you because I went through those same emotions. I've been there. I was there in your place in 2012 when this all hit me and my world fell upside down learning about Hollow Earth and suddenly having it click in and going, why are we not being told this, And that's where I recommend the Spiritual First Aid Tent group. It is a group on Facebook. It's there. It's for people that suffered any kind of trauma through religion or anything, any frustrations with not having people understand that they're awakening and having nobody to relate to with that. I liken it to almost feeling like you're standing above everybody, but you don't want to be there. You wish everybody would be up there with you. And it could be a very frustrating feeling when all the people down there look at you like you're completely off your rocker and nuts. So I've been there. I've dealt with that. So again, going forward, tonight, look out for Epic Paranormal TV and or Spectral Wolfpack Paranormal on YouTube. They will be having a live paranormal deal here tonight, or at least they're going to try to. They have a line on something after Crypticon is closed down for the night. Also, I need to let you know, next week, I forgot this almost. Next week in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, at the Mothman Festival, um, Alex will be there for sure with his table. Swing by, say hi. He's thinking about doing a raffle for a T-shirt or something, and something that might be fun for the kids regarding aluminum foil with it being Mothman and the Death Ray thing. So some cheap and fun for the kids and adults as well. So if you see him, stop by and say hi. Say you heard it here on Center Stars channel. That would be great for me. If you happen to be in the area, again, that's Point Pleasant, West Virginia Mothman Festival next weekend. So, uh, anyways, I look forward to getting some new videos up. And another reason I'm bouncing around in all this is you gotta get from point A to whenever it is, even past Z. And sometimes it requires that you have to go from here to there to here to there. If I only told you about Hollow Earth, well, then you would know nothing about the rest. And if I only told you about, anything else, then it wouldn't make sense without the Hollow Earth. So you got to get these bits and pieces in order into understanding what's going on. And it is so complicated. And so I just kind of go with how I would tell a person the story about this. And when people ask me about Hollow Earth, in comments, I'm like, oh my gosh, there is so much I could never post it all here. Being able to post one photo at a time, that kind of thing. But yeah, sorry about last week. I was under the weather. I'm under the weather this week, but I'm just on the verge before it gets really bad. Um, by indication of what my kids are going through, I'm going to be coughing, hacking up a storm here in the next 24, 48 hours. So thanks for tuning in, and just stay tuned to the channel, and please do go back, watch all the other videos, give them thumbs, likes, shares, and honestly, I do suggest you go all the way back to the first one. Right now, there's, I believe, 12 up in the series, and you really can't start at 12 and expect to understand everything without having gone back to number one and watched it all the way through. To get back, just go to the description of each and click on that. It will have a link back, all the way back to the first one. Watch it and then just go back forward all the way to 12. So, what was that? Oh, where's my chat? It goes there for a second, disappears. Okay, so Arjan asked a question. Here's the deal. What I do know is that the poles are anywhere from 300 to 600 miles thick. Okay, and they have a ridge. But what you have to keep in mind too is during natural planetary formation, usually only end up with one pole hole, top and bottom. The problem with Earth is we have Marduk going by and it's moved us by 10 degrees, and then the rotational axis of Earth has drilled a new pole hole, and then it's moved another 10 degrees every another 10, 15, 30,000 years. Whenever it is the Marduk goes by, it's moved another 10 degrees. And when they looked back at Earth on the crew activities on Apollo 11, if you look that up on YouTube and you look back, it looks like there's some round things that look like motherships, but those are actually polar entrances with big holes and clouds interacting around them. So if you look that up, you'll see. And so there may not be that crustal thickness everywhere. It may just be that, most of the crustal thickness is underneath the Bermuda Triangle area and the Dragon's Triangle, as I posted that hypothesis in this last one on the Flood Sumerian Deluge. But in between that, whatever the crust thickness is, and the center star is approximately 12 to 1400 miles. And then the center star itself is 600 to 800 miles wide. So half of that is 400. Then you have the 1200. Of that 1200 miles, about 700 to 750 of it is atmosphere. The rest of the space in between, to the little bit of atmosphere that's in around the center star that makes it have a smoky, slaggy appearance, is just as much. So, and that would be space. And so that space works in a couple ways. It's not cold necessarily. Space doesn't really have anything in it, but it does because space has a sulfur smell to it. So it's just like broken up fragments of dust and stuff. Inside the planet, it acts as an insulator that keeps the center star pretty warm, except for where the polar vortex comes down and cools it at each pole. Plus, it's giving off its own heat and radiation from the decay in it, and it keeps the inner atmosphere at about 75 degrees with great humidity, great lush atmosphere, artesian spring fountains of really clean water, and will be for a long time until some of the human trash wastewater starts reaching the inside of the earth. But again, it may not, it may filter and clean still before it ever gets there. I remember on a tour in Jewel Cave, this woman was saying, I would drink for that water because it's crystal clean and clear. I wouldn't drink from that water because 40 years ago, our toiletries backed up and it's sewage poured out and it's now reaching this level in the cave. And I wouldn't drink from that water over there because in that water we had radiation samples from the radiation nuclear fallout from the bombs going off. And so she was pointing out 3 different drops of water and saying which one was drinkable, which one was fouled with you know, potty stuff, and the other one had radioactive decay in it from nuclear weapons testing. It was pretty crazy. But by the time it gets through all of those layers of crust in the earth and filters out, it comes out pretty darn crystal clear and mineral fresh inside of the earth. So they, on average, reportedly live up to 1,000 years old. During the 2 years that Olaf Jansen was in there, he described how invigorating it was, how energetic it was, how light he felt, and the static kind of life-juvenating power of being underneath the inside center star. It's like a paradise in there, and for us, it would be even better because we would be stepping into a habitat where it's about, for the most part, a third to a half of our gravity out here. So we would feel a lot lighter and we wouldn't feel as heavy on our bones inside the earth. These beings that are in there, of course, have grown accustomed to the gravity that's underneath their feet. So, like the North Pole giants, they were on the order of 9 to 12 feet tall, whereas in the ones in Edon, in either the land of Agartha and or Shangri-La inside the earth. Some have argued that Shangri-La is where our South Pole is, which is the North Pole inside the earth, is where Asgard is. But my argument against that is we have the accounts of the Vikings, and they definitely came from the North Pole. And Asgard is Agartha, is a city in the Viking accounts, but it's actually a land inside the earth. The capital city being Edon, the Din, and that's according to George Willis George Emerson, who wrote the book The Smoky God, based on the biography of Olaf Jansen, who spent real time there, and either took the liberties of calling it the Garden of Eden and naming the 4 rivers the rivers out of the Bible, or they really are. And so when we're talking about Eden, Asgard, the Rainbow Bridge, all of that stuff, we're actually talking about Viking culture mixed with this story, mixed with biblical references, mixed with Sumerian references, and the knowledge that you can't live like on Nibiru on the external surface of that planet. It's nothing but a volcanic wasteland of craters from trying to blow up into volcanoes and having them live. If Tiamat was indeed solid, it would be so solid that anything that lived on the surface, if it was livable, they would have been smashed little teeny tiny ants. But inside a planet like that, they would have been massive, gigantic beings because the gravity is above their head. And that's how hollow planets work. And that's what makes this all more understandable. So they didn't live on an Earth like planet where it was just really hard on their bodies. Their bodies grew to the habitat. When we look out in the ocean, sometimes we find islands with pygmy animals on them, pygmy elephants or pygmy people, pygmy uh, pigs, and they grow to the size of the habitat, and on islands they shrink down. So, anyways, it was great talking to you all. If you missed anything in this, please feel free to watch it again, share it around. If you have any questions, be thinking for next week. Um, as I am going to try to do this live stream every Saturday, but I need to get it wrapped up. I'm starting to feel a little bit wet. Can you rate a little your thought? Yeah, true. Sorry, it goes away so fast. There 100% are for sure asteroid Titan remains floating around our solar system. There are. They call them rare rock asteroids because they are defunct of metals that like a core would be in a typical asteroid. That's a metal fireball, but there are rock asteroids, and they're in video 10 in the thumbnail. Bradley Chester, if you look at that one, go back and look, Arjan. There is a picture of the moon, and there is a Titan leg portion. The buttocks, the knee up to the knee that's slightly dislocated, down to a split broken ankle with the fibia and tibia covered in flesh in it. At least that's very much what it appears like. And these things are crashing into planets all the time. So they just usually typically burn up. But it was just announced yesterday, the day before, that there is a skyscraper size large asteroid that will pass between the Earth and the Moon. We may see a little bit of tail debris from it. Who knows? Um, if it doesn't pass smoothly, it will get caught up in our gravity and cruise around. But yeah, there's plenty of crustal remains, mineral and center star remains of 16 Psyche, which was the center star of Tiamat, and then also biological remains in the form of asteroids. Um, I mean, when the thing was hit and blown open, it blew things off the inside face of that planet, and they came crashing back down and again, certainly. And it also caused traumatic injuries. You know as well as I do, when we find a lot of these petrified titans, they've got tops of their heads lopped off, or only a head, or only an arm, or only the lower portion of a leg and knee. So, yeah, they suffered greatly. But in some areas, it looks like they went completely untouched. In other areas, we have, like in Iceland, we have that one elephant. It's completely dislocated from the back half to the front half of its body. It looks like it fell from 10 miles up and just went splat. But that one still has the really good skin on it. So, but yeah, you could see the head's going in one direction, and then it's all mangled and malformed, and then the back, the tail portion with its tail and the two hindquarters is facing another direction. So, yeah. Anyways, I really do have to wrap this up. So, you guys have a great rest of your weekend and good week, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate it. See you next week.